Mr. Cormick. Welcome this morning. You have 5 minutes with a possible extension of 3. If you could give us your name for the record and the agenda item you're speaking to when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good morning, everyone. My name is Peter Cormick. I live in the Jewel River Valley, and I'm here this morning to talk on the agenda item 1813 on webcasting of the public access session. So 5 months ago, when I was in this chamber, I advocated for the webcasting of what is known as the public access session, which, for those who don't know, takes place in the half hour prior to the meeting commencing, providing members of the community with the opportunity to make presentations and ask questions of council on council-related matters that are not listed on the meeting agenda. Sorry, Councillor Brown?
Just a point of order, we'll just say clarification. Sorry, Madam Mayor, I think there's some confusion because it's listed as Corunna as... That's what the little chat...
No, I'm not talking on the forest, obviously.
No, not at all.
Well, it's listed down here on my agenda.
Oh, I'm very sorry.
Yes, Mr. Cormick.
Okay, I can resume. All right.
It appears that we have possibly had a miscommunication.
Do you want me to step back and come back later?
Not at all. Not at all. I'm just saying why you're being interrupted is because on our public forum sheet, you're down to speak on Corunna State Forest.
Oh, I see.
I observed that, and it's fine if you want to continue.
So you have a chess clock there. I haven't been
stopped
debited.
the clock.
Good.
No problem at all, and I apologise for the interruption.
No, that's okay. I'm grateful for Councillor Brown's attention, actually. So no, you finished your breakfast. It's all good. Yeah. So I'm here again to take advantage of Councillor McGinley's much appreciated notice of motion to have the public access session webcast. In putting this motion forward, he will be providing councillors with their first opportunity to vote in favour of enabling this webcasting to take place. Because the public access sessions are currently not webcast, those people within the community who follow council affairs, who are at home waiting to watch the webcast of the meeting itself, which commences at 10 a.m, would have no idea whether, or in fact if, there are other members of our community who, at the same time, are addressing council during the half hour leading up to the meeting. Yet with the simple flick of a switch, those presentations would immediately become available for all to see and hear. Then, as the meeting commences, the webcasting would continue, uninterrupted, including the first agenda item of public forum. Such an arrangement makes perfect sense. The present arrangement makes no sense. Both the public access and public forum sessions provide the community with a unique opportunity to meet and engage firsthand with their representatives in their collective form as the governing body. Clearly, the presentations by community members during these sessions and the involvement of councillors, to whatever extent that might be, is very much a matter of public interest and should, as a matter of course, be given the widest possible coverage. What possible argument could there be to do otherwise? For those of you who are disinclined or completely opposed to allowing the webcasting that Councillor McGinley will be putting to you a little later, I ask you to please genuinely reflect on why you are here as our representatives, and to reflect on the oath you took on assuming office and the obligations imposed on you by the Local Government Act. You all have a clearly defined obligation to facilitate engagement with the community and to be proactive in so doing. Council's community engagement framework is an impressive document in what it aspires to achieve. The charter under which it operates recognises that engagement is a two-way street, requiring of Council that it will be transparent, proactive, available, genuine and consistent. And it asks of the community to be informed, to ask questions, to get involved. What better forum for all of these goals to be realised together than in this forum, in this chamber, where the community and its representatives actually share the same physical space and have an opportunity to interact. And why on earth should such an engagement not be shared Shire-wide? After all, on its website, Council advises that we provide on-demand video and audio of Council meetings through this internet-based live streaming service, which allows you greater access to Council proceedings, decisions and debate, and eliminates the geographic barriers that prevent some people from attending our meetings. There is simply no sensible reason for public access not to be webcast. Please let us not hear Council is not required to even provide a public forum, let alone webcast it. Any councillor who takes that position or finds public presentations a nuisance really doesn't get it and should not be here in this chamber. So finally, those of you who are genuine about engaging with your community, please vote in support of Councillor McGinley's motion when it comes up. Those of you who decide not to support it, please, as a courtesy, give your reasons publicly. Thank you. I'm not quite finished. I did say thank you for that, but this item was brought to my attention, I must say. I wasn't aware that it was coming up. And when it was, I thought, well, it's a no-brainer. Is there a need to speak on it? It's just so obvious. But when I spoke further with some people, they said, oh no, there will be some opposition to it. And I just really can't comprehend what it could be. And I know you, Madam Mayor in particular, you voted in favour of the webcasting of meetings back in December 2014, I think it was. And you, at that stage, as a member of the ERA, and your manifesto, if you like, was all about openness and transparency. And I thought, well, no, the Mayor's going to vote for it, so... And I know some others who will vote, I expect to vote, but I can't believe it won't get through. So let's hope my optimism is not ill-founded. Okay, so I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Cormick. Councillors, are there any questions? Councillor Nathan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, Mr. Cormick, how would you... first of all, I'm always intrigued as to how you can separate the wood from the chaff. You're always able to discern what is council's imprimatur and what belongs to one of the other tiers of government. So, being so astute, I would like to ask you, how would you ensure that the issues raised in public access are part of council's imprimatur and not a soapbox for personal views outside of council's purview?
Thank you, Councillor Nathan, and good morning. Good to see you. Well, when you say imprimatur, you mean that it's a council-related matters, that it's related to council matters. Well, this is where Madam Mayor comes in, and she's very good at keeping order. I've seen that. If somebody's stepping out of line, or if it's irrelevant, or somebody says something that's inappropriate, she can close them down. But also, with the requirement that the person who is seeking to register to speak, they specify the subject matter, so that you know it's going to be a council-related matter and not something else. That keeps control of it. So somebody, okay, so there can be some soapboxing, that's going to happen. It's part of our democratic society that will happen. So I can't see that there would be any problem at all. You specify your subject matter. If it's not council related, then you don't get to speak. So you come in, speak on the subject. If you diverge from that, then the Mayor will say, hey, get back on track or we'll finish you up. Does that answer your question or not?
Obviously, you have greater faith in human nature than I do, because it's one thing to give your subject title, it's another to stick to the subject, and you're very good at sticking to the subject.
Well, I think, look, our democratic process is far from perfect, and so we need to accommodate those little areas where people might step out of line. It's just part and parcel, I'm afraid.
Mr. Cormick, I have a question for you.
Yes.
And I do appreciate you and your very considered presentation this morning. And it is something that we have discussed previously, and I guess, part of me wants to support it, but I do have some reservations and concerns, and I'll be really interested to listen to the debate later. My question to you is, we are, under our Code of Meeting Practice, obliged to start the council meeting proper at 10 o'clock. If we have a series of presenters in public session, I think that there needs to be, and I'm going to ask you your views on how we restrict it enough to allow us to start at a time when we have advertised, so that we meet our obligations with those that are sitting at home or are watching live streaming that have an expectation, and they may be waiting for a certain agenda items with great interest, so that we meet our obligations to start at 10 o'clock and still allow for members of our community to come and speak to non-agenda items. That's the first thing. The second thing, I think, is about that two-way street and that obligation, as far as it not being abused in the sense of people coming and using it for grandstanding and I guess that is part of the reservations that some of my fellow councillors and myself may have, is to not allow it to be a lessening of the importance of the opportunity of our community to come and address us as council. So I would not like to see it turn into some sort of soapbox opportunity. Because I do believe that there are many other forums for members of our community to get their voices across, and they do, and they regularly do, without it necessarily being brought into this chamber in a,
Yep. So do you want me to respond now?
I would like you to respond.
So there are 2 points. The first is this timing issue and the overlapping into the meeting and keeping control of that. Well, that exists in any event. We're just talking about the webcasting, whether it goes live, so to speak. So keeping control of that half-hour period is an issue that exists presently. And I think there have been occasions where the meeting has commenced at 10 and then you've just passed a resolution to go back to the public access. I can't recall, but you could control it. As to the webcasting, and also when people apply, when they seek to register, you could set a limit, a quota, because it needs to be sensible. You can wait until the next meeting because we've filled up the space, and it could be a queue that's formed, and because you can't have 50 people coming in, that's crazy. So you can control that, and if you start the webcasting at 9:30, you just leave the switch on, and you just move into the meeting. If you start at 5 past, that's fine. People at home are watching. Oh yeah, it's still happening. It makes it easier, in fact, so you don't have to worry about starting on the knocker. The second thing, on the grandstanding, the soapboxing and so on, that can happen here, like, during this public forum process. So you could have somebody coming in and grandstanding. Again, that happens, in our society, that will happen. Just one of the things in a democratic society.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think you've answered my questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Cormick.
So no more questions?
It appears not.
Good, so we're going to have a yes vote.
Apologies, Councillor
Good,
Tate.
I was hoping on Councillor Tate.
Not a problem at all. Through you, Madam Mayor.
Excellent.
Mr. Cormack.
Cormick,
I just wanted, through Mr. Bernard's giving us the figures this morning of 38% of our people
live outside the Shire.
area, 62% have access to us.
To access to...
Have access to come to the public forum.
Well, if they're not in a
Public
wheelchair,
access,
yes.
Yeah, that's okay. And in all due respect to Mr. Bernard, out of that 62% of possibles that could have been here this morning, Not one person turned up to listen to him speak.
Well, is that a reflection on him or the person's particular circumstances?
I'm just pointing out the fact that 62% had the chance to come
Yes.
and watch public access with Mr Bernard, and not one of them turned up to listen
That's
to him.
right, and that makes the case. That's the very point
Councillor
being made.
Tate, you need to make sure there was a question in there.
No, but that makes the case, doesn't it? That's the very reason we need to have it webcast, because we're in a retirement... There are very many people... Yeah. Yeah, but you're making the case. Exactly. They're not here. They're at home.
Mr.
And if they
Cormick,
can watch it from home, it's simple. Right,
Thank
the
you.
case has been made. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cormick. Thank you for your presentation.